What is up, YouTube? I've been traveling through Ireland the last little bit, and I've seen people doing some pretty dumb shit when it comes to the clothes they've been wearing and how they've been dressing. And overall, I think it's just ruining their experience of how to enjoy this beautiful country. So, in this video, I want to talk about how I would pack for a week or so trip to Ireland, what I would recommend, and what I would suggest you do as well. So, if that's something you're interested in exploring, let's get into it. So, first things first, when it comes to Ireland, this is a very, very wet country. On average, it rains here 275 days of 365 per year. So if you are here for a week, there's a strong chance that it is going to rain likely the majority of the time you are here. So what does that mean for packing? Well, this is what I've brought on a week's worth of trip. And first of all, let's just talk about kind of the obvious stuff. I think one of the things that I've seen people doing, which is absolutely blowing my mind, is wearing things like denim jackets or like plaid flannel shirts to places out in rural Ireland that are so wet and so rainy, and they're just like absolutely getting soaked and then just being wet and ruining the rest of their day because they're cold and soaking wet because they didn't plan for this. So a couple things I think non-negotiable if you're going to come to Ireland is something like a nice rain jacket, probably a safe bet. This is like an Arc'teryx, so it's pretty fancy, but you don't have to, drop a ton of money to get something that's like a windbreaker rain jacket. It rains here all the time. If you're not wearing a rain jacket, or if you don't have one and you're going out into like rural Ireland or anywhere outside of like the major cities, like you're just going to be soaking wet all the time. And even if you're walking around as a tourist, just traveling and going into pubs or seeing like exhibits or museums, whatever you're doing, it's going to be likely raining. So if you don't have a rain jacket, like you're just going to get wet. So I think this is the first like absolutely non-negotiable. Mind-blowing that I saw people going to like the cliffs of Moher yesterday, where I saw one guy with like a snakeskin suit jacket at the cliffs of Moher, like absolutely soaked, getting torched by the wind. It just mind-blowing. And then obviously there's like the potential solution of using an umbrella, which lots of people do in the city. But the thing is, it's also very windy here. So if you're trying to hold on to an umbrella, like I said, again, the cliffs of Moher, I saw a girl yesterday trying to hold on to an umbrella. She didn't have a rain jacket, and it just immediately popped up backwards. She looked like Mary Poppins trying to hold on to a kite. Like it's too windy. That's why you see a lot of locals not even using umbrellas here, which is funny, despite all the rain, because it's a very windy place as well. So it's just gonna break your umbrella. Then you're gonna be shit out of luck again. Just get yourself a nice rain jacket that's gonna be a windbreaker. You can layer up underneath it. I'm here in the summer, so it's like fairly warm, but even in the winter, I would say similar kind of idea, but just use likely a warmer base layer. Also worth mentioning, I am Canadian, so maybe I'm a little bit more used to the cold weather. But other than that, I think the other thing that's absolutely essential is some kind of waterproof or water resistant shoes. These are like a pair of Vessies that I've had for a long time. They're super, super comfortable, good for like hiking, 100% waterproof. Because again, you're just gonna be soaking wet all day, or you're gonna be out in the rain and walking through puddles and walking through mud. So if you don't have something that's gonna repel water, like it's just gonna ruin like your socks, and then you're gonna be soaked all day. So plan ahead, bring at least a rain jacket and a pair of waterproof shoes or water resistant shoes. Hiking boots, like most like hiking boots, something like Merrell is gonna be water resistant and perfectly fine for this kind of environment. It's not like you're going too far like trekking. These hikes aren't too bad. It's just wet all the time. So those are two things I think, if you're not bringing that to this country, like I don't really know. The other thing is because it's so windy and rainy, it's really not that warm most of the time. Like I saw when I was at Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, when I was outside of like Belfast, I saw this like mom with her two kids and both the kids were in like shorts and flip-flops, like trying to hold on to their hoodies and trying to stay warm in this like really drastic windy, rainy weather, and they're freezing cold, and it's ruining their entire day because they're not planned appropriately. And I think that's just something so easily you can do by spending 5 minutes and doing the research of where you're going. So A, you don't look like an idiot around the locals, and B, you also are just like relatively warm and dry throughout the time you're staying here, so you can actually enjoy this place. Because of the weather here and because of how much rain it gets, it's extremely lush and dense and green environment and nature here. So a lot of people like to go outside of the cities and explore more than just like their hotel or hostel. Those are two things that are non-optional. You pretty much need to have those two things. So in terms of luggage, I think if you can't go on a week trip without a checked bag, I don't know what you're doing with your life. Like everything here on this bed is within 2 bags, which is within your carry-on limit. So my 2 bags here, worth obviously checking with your airline to see what the specifics are, but I have a Peak Design 45-liter carry-on backpack that I keep all my, like, it's waterproof as well, so I keep all like my valuables in there. And then I also have a smaller 25-liter personal item. So if you actually look up the size of personal items that most airlines allow you, you can have up to usually like 25 liters, which is a fairly big item. So if you have something that's like this is actually like a Gymshark backpack, funny enough, but it's like long and skinny, so it goes underneath the seat really, really easily. They're not going to give you shit about that, and then you have enough space to have all your stuff. So this is everything that I packed. There's a little bit, obviously, that I'm having for the camera and the microphone to actually be able to talk about this, but this is essentially everything you need. So let's just, I guess, start from the outside in. So in terms of like outerwear, I also brought because I'm here for a week and I like to go out to bars and do nightlife, I brought like a bomber jacket, fairly water resistant, not that great, but it ended up being okay. I also brought a pair of black Converse. These double as like my lifting shoes, and they're also like fairly clean or dressy looking, so you can go to like a nicer place for dinner without being grilled for dressing like a I don't know, a vandal or a... Okay, and then in terms of just like non-clothes items, I guess, I have a hostel like microfiber towel that's meant to dry fairly quickly. In this case, I was staying in private, so I didn't actually end up needing this, so this was probably a waste of space. I have one toiletry bag that some people would say is also overkill size for this length of trip. Unfortunately, I have like my blonde highlights right now, so it requires a little bit more maintenance and product to keep that in. I also brought a fairly big speaker with this because I always travel with a speaker. This one's like pretty overkill again, but I like music, it's important to me. I also have my iPad, a notebook, my cables bag that has a universal plug. Obviously, if you're traveling anywhere outside of like USA or Canada, you're likely going to need a universal plug. Have my MacBook, and then anything that you can't see is pretty much just being used to hold up the camera. So I have a tripod, a microphone, a light, and then the camera itself. But other than that, this is everything. I have my reusable water bottle too that's a Lark, so it actually can purify any of the water that I'm drinking throughout the day, which makes it really nice to have while traveling. Highly, highly recommend. I also brought one belt and one hat. So that's, it's really not that complicated. I don't think this video should be necessary, and obviously there's a lot of resources out there already, but everything else, so I was here for 7 days, so I have 7 pairs of underwear, 7 pairs of socks. Maybe if you like have a tendency to shit yourself, maybe you want to bring an extra pair just in case, but I mean, worst case, you can likely do laundry in the hostel or hotel where you're staying. Most places in Europe are very conducive to being able to do that. An absolute worst case, if you do say, let's say you shit yourself, you can always just buy new clothes, I guess. In terms of like pants, pretty simple. I brought 2 pairs of joggers. I think joggers are the absolute best thing. The pair I'm wearing right now is actually Young LA, which is like, I think the best absolute travel joggers you can get. They're like semi water resistant. It's like that polyester material that water doesn't really like to absorb into. But also has a ton of pockets and zipper pockets, which makes it really easy to sleep on the bus or sleep on the plane without worrying about your shit falling out of your pocket. So highly, highly recommend these. Again, they're black, they're clean looking, they're extremely comfy. One of my favorite pairs of pants. Another pair of black joggers, which definitely proved to be the best item to bring around here, because like I said, it's cold, it's windy, it's rainy. You don't really need the rest of my pants, which I brought, I brought a pair of swim shorts because, I think when you're traveling, you never really know if you're going to be like going to a pool going to a hotel that has a pool or something like that. So I find it's better to have, this one item that doesn't want to take up much space. I brought a pair of shorts, didn't wear them a single time because it's always cold in this city. And also brought a pair of black jeans because, like I said, I like to go out and look a little bit cleaner than just joggers throughout the day. Now, pretty much that's getting to the end of it. In terms of t-shirts, that's like what I wear most of the time throughout the day. Like I'll pretty much have a pair of joggers, t-shirt, and then either my rain jacket or my bomber, depending on what time of day it is, or if I'm going out for dinner, or if I'm just going on like one of the excursions. So I brought 7 t-shirts, plus the one that I wore on the original flight here. I brought 1 button-up and 1 tank top along with a hat to wear, because when you're out, it's so windy here that I think it blows a lot of your, obviously it's going to blow you around quite a bit and make you look maybe not as well put together. So having a hat is something pretty nice to have. So yeah, I think that pretty much should cover it. I think this was a very straightforward idea, but the shit I've seen over the last little bit that I've been here, from like tourists trying to hold on to these umbrellas in like gale force winds and then snapping them in half, to people walking around with snakeskin suits and cotton hoodies that are just soaked and drenched completely through, that your whole day is ruined, right? If you get soaked like that at 10 a.m. and you're on a tour for the whole day, you're going to be soaked in cold the entire day. So I think this is stuff that's absolutely necessary. You can get a rain jacket fairly cheap. You can get some sort of water resistant hiking boots for fairly cheap as well. And if you're coming all the way to this country, I think it's doing a disservice to not go out and see all the beautiful parts of the rural Ireland that really makes it like so famous. Like the Atlantic Way and the coastline is just, it's really beautiful, beautiful nature. So highly, highly recommend doing that. But this is what I packed. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all back put into my luggage because I have to go catch my flight here soon. But hopefully this was useful if you are thinking of coming over here to Ireland and checking it out. This is what I would recommend packing. This is how I made it work for a 1-week trip. So if this was useful, feel free to leave a like or a comment in the section below. Always helps the algorithm. But as always, my name is Alex. Welcome back to Lifting Nomad. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.